a little bit of an overview of how did we start Sweatcoin. That went from three of us when we started. It was me and two other guys, and has now ended up being a company, with 50 million users, fastest growing health and fitness app ever. Became number one app in 12 countries. How did that journey go? It's a very strange and wild story. And then we'll go into a little bit about Dorm and how did we raise our pre-seed round of $1 million with this in a very short time frame. Staring at the ceiling, all alone in my room. I think is relevant. So to start off with, guys, we started Sweatcoin back in 2015, and how this had come about for me personally was after school, at a very young age, I knew what I wanted to do with my life was start businesses and be an entrepreneur. From watching The Apprentice to Dragon's Den and things like this, I would always watch it and think, hey, I think I can do better than that, how these guys are doing it on TV. So from a young age, I felt like what attracted me to entrepreneurship was not only was there lots of logical and structured thinking this side of entrepreneurship, and I really enjoyed as when I was in school doing the sciences and maths and things like this, but equally I was as much into the creative stuff, and entrepreneurship, specifically with tech startups, seemed like this perfect meld of both of these worlds where I could do both of these things that I really enjoyed. So this realization came to me when I was like in year 9 or something like this. This is what I wanted to do with my life. So after school, I took this course on entrepreneurship from this bootcamp set up by Peter Jones, this is the tall guy from Dragon's Den who usually sits on the right if you watch this show. Did this course on entrepreneurship. Ended up not being very useful because what I learned is you can't actually learn about entrepreneurship in lectures. You have to actually be doing it practically in order to really learn. So after this course finished, I hadn't learned very much from lectures there, and realized what I needed to do was actually run businesses myself in order to learn these things. So I was very cocky because I was very good academically in school, and I thought, look, I'm going to be a millionaire in like 3 years. So I started off at the age of 17 with a variety of my own projects that I tried to run. One was a hardware startup, very difficult to do. I made a mental note: don't do hardware startups in your 20s. It's not a good idea unless you have lots of money. Then tried some software startups, one or two more. But after trying this for a few years and reaching various stages with each one of them, I realized, hey, mate, I'm probably not as good as at this as I thought I was going to be. And really decided to go and learn from someone who'd done it before. And at this point in time, I came across these two guys, these two older gents that were in their 40s, who had this strange idea that steps are worth something to the economy. Because as people move around, it saves the NHS and government's money on healthcare, things like this. So you could actually extract this value of physical activity from these sources, give it back to people to make them walk more, and in doing so, create a really valuable and profitable company selling an asset class no one else can. So they had this really crazy idea for Sweatcoin. It was just two of them at this point in time. They just had the idea in Jan 2015. I met them very shortly after this and decided to join them 30 days into their journey with this idea, as basically someone to do all the stuff they didn't want to do. I was much younger than them, and they needed someone junior to come in and basically do all the parts of the business that they, now being in their 40s, didn't want to be doing anymore. So we started this back in 2015. It was 3 people around one desk in a WeWork building. So this is how it started off. Now, the first thing we tried to do was we needed some sort of MVP of an app to test out. And we decided to hire this Ukrainian app agency to build an MVP for us. Now, it turned out this was a really bad idea. And typically, if you're a tech company and you're going to be creating technology, this is how your business operates. You have to own the tech. You have to hire your own engineers, your own CTO in order to do this. It's a very bad idea to be using these external development agencies. So we kind of over 5 years made all the mistakes in the book, but this is one of the first ones we did. So we hired this agency. They built a really shitty version of the app, barely worked, had lots of glitches, but essentially kind of proved it did what we needed, which was it would count your steps. And every 1,000 steps you took, it would give you one Sweatcoin in exchange for this. Now, next thing we needed was some users to start testing this app to see would they like it or not. Would people stick around once they joined? And again, we didn't really know what to do. So I just walked up and down our WeWork building, knocking on people's office doors saying, hey, look, we have this app that turns your steps into these coins. Would you want to download? Most people told me to get lost, but eventually 200 people ended up downloading it. And we had our first 200 test user base. So we had a very basic version of the app, an MVP it's called, minimum viable product to test. Second, we had 200 people actively using it. Now, last thing is we needed a place where they could spend those Sweatcoins. Does it get value? Again, I had no idea what to do. So the thing that made most sense was just to walk around our office block, like the areas local to it, knock on local restaurants and shops' doors and ask them if they would like to give our users, our 200 users, something in exchange for their 200 in exchange for their Sweatcoins, in order to get some of them into their own stores. And after it must have been 4 weeks or so of knocking on doors of local shops, we eventually got one Chinese restaurant to give people some spring rolls in exchange for their Sweatcoins. And secondly, there was a pizza shop that gave people buy one, get one free pizza if they were to pay with Sweatcoins. Not a super healthy start into the people who are exchanging your physical activity into coins, but nonetheless, we now had all the three things we needed, like a basic product to test with, 200 test users, and a few places around the office building where you could actually spend those Sweatcoins. Content creator, how to be a movie star. These courses didn't really exist. So they settled for something that looked reasonable. After they took this reasonable course, they had very reasonable options of what to do after this course. So they took these reasonable options and took reasonable jobs at these companies. However, by the time they became, 27, 28, 29, and they turned around, it felt like they had almost accidentally ended up in a job that they never really wanted. And they got what we now, as a society, call the quarter life crisis, which is, by this time you turn around and it feels like you're now stuck. You can't go back and really tackle the life you wanted. So it became really apparent to us that the cause of this quarter life crisis is largely our education system as it stands. And it's very largely talks about how universities largely are too expensive and are not really teaching people practically the things they need in order to get to their dream jobs. So we decided this is what we're going to spend the next 10 years of our lives solving. And we started imagining what would a genuinely powerful education system look like. Now, we both analyzed for ourselves, how did we both learn in our life? Because I didn't go to university, my co-founder did, but we largely understood we didn't learn from theoretical situations. We didn't learn from lectures. How we'd actually learn in our life of how to grow a business, for example, was working with people who'd done it before, very experienced people who'd done the same thing before. And we worked with them day to day to build something with our own hands, took it to some level of success. And this is how we learned these practical skills and gained the confidence to go do it ourselves at a later point in life. So we understood that you don't learn from lectures, you learn from practically doing stuff with someone who's been there and done it before, someone to guide you. And we decided that this is the type of education system the world should have in order to get you into these passion careers, becoming an entrepreneur, becoming a content creator, having your own business, these types of careers. This is what we started creating. So this was our idea. We originally had it in January or February 2020. This is last year. We went about first testing the idea in a very lean format. So as you remember with Sweatcoin, we also did this MVP test. It took us 7 or 8 months at that point. This time we managed to do our MVP testing in about 1 month. We created a very basic web app to allow for people to start finding people to work with them in building their businesses and learning from them in this way. Within a period of 3 weeks, we had over 35,000 people attracted to this web app. We went and showed this to potential investors. By June of that year, we'd closed our pre-seed round, which was for $1 million. Again, very atypical. Pre-seed means you've done this before you have an actual product, before you have any revenue, before you have a real business. It's just an idea that someone's funded for you. Extremely atypical. This doesn't really ever happen. And since then, we've started now broadening out our range of entrepreneurs that work with people one-on-one, helping them start their own business. So this ranges from tech entrepreneurs that have raised 20, 30, $40 million before, that work one-on-one with their own students to help them launch their own versions of these businesses across a 6-month window, through to content creators like YouTubers, people with millions of subscribers who help younger people who want to be YouTubers to create their own channels and work one-on-one with them for a 6-month period to help them do this. And we're now starting to expand this out to different cities and different career paths as well. So guys, this was a little bit about our journey so far, both with Sweatcoin and with Dorm. And would love to open up to any questions you guys might have across this journey path, or maybe questions that are relevant to your businesses if you have potential ideas you're going down. The areas you should ask me questions on, the areas I largely specialize in talking about: growth, since I was chief growth officer at Sweatcoin. I really specialize in this area. How did we get 50 million users? What are the tips and tricks around this? Influencer marketing / growth marketing through Snapchat, Facebook ads, things like this. Product, I am now, as well as CEO at Dorm, our chief product officer. So how do you build a product that works for users and solves a problem for them? And lastly, fundraising. Through both Sweatcoin and through Dorm so far, we've managed to raise significant amounts of funding from VCs in the Valley. So very happy to discuss these 4 topics or any others you can think of.
Thank you so much for the great, lovely story of how you managed to achieve everything you have. And thank you also for sharing it all with us. I'd like to kick it off with a more general question just to get the ball rolling. So I was really wondering, how does a day in your life as an entrepreneur look like? Because, I'm sure that there's a lot of different things that, you deal with a lot of things, as you just mentioned. You've done growth, marketing, product development, and all that. So how does that look like in your day-to-day life?
Good question. So I believe the role of a founder CEO largely revolves on just 2 key activities, and everything else is a distraction. And those 2 key activities are attracting the right people on your bus in your company, getting the right team members, and second, aligning those team members on the correct vision for the company. Again, the vision isn't about, hey guys, take a left, right, then go forward 10 feet and then go up the hill. The vision means, hey guys, these are the rough coordinates that I have. This is where we need to be 5 years down the road. Now, guys, let's figure out together how to get there. So these are the 2 key things that I believe the founder CEO needs to be doing. It's just 2 things. And if you do those 2 things extraordinarily well, everything else is a distraction. That being said, when you're in a young team and you have anywhere less than 50 employees, as a CEO, there's lots of other things that intrude on your day that become that you kind of have to do at some point. Product related, as I said, I'm also chief product officer at Dorm. So I look after our product, what features need to be designed, talking to users, understanding how they currently use our product, what needs to improve, and funneling these decisions back into the team. I treat all of those as important activities as long as they're not distracting from my main job, which is attract the right people and then align them on the right vision. Everything else is a distraction. Does this answer your question?
Yes, it does. Well, I was going to also ask, sorry, everybody, I was just very curious as well, how do you find the right people?
Really good question. I think so. With you guys, largely, your first person you'll need to find is your co-founder, and I really suggest against starting a solo business. It's really important to have a co-founder. And I quite honestly, even if I wouldn't start a business without a co-founder. It would be too lonely of a journey. You need someone to share the ups and downs with, someone you really trust. And this has to be a person you've known for a long period of time, or at least my rule of thumb is have had one major fallout before you start a business together, right? You only really know if you like someone if you've had a falling out with them before. If you've had a proper fight and made up afterwards, this is my rule of thumb of this is co-founder material. You really know each other now. So that's first thing. It shouldn't be someone you just met. It shouldn't be a dude from a networking event you visited. This is a really bad idea. If this person doesn't exist yet, instead of picking a crappier person and moving on, I would suggest you tactically or strategically go about building relationships to find a co-founder. I don't know, maybe you need to tactically get yourself a job at a really cool startup where you can meet potential co-founders. I would much rather suggest this than pick a shitty co-founder and move forward. It's much more valuable to really find the right person first. So that's about co-founder, and largely this person should be a counterbalance to your skills and how you work. It's no use you both wanting to do the same stuff and being good at the same stuff. And in my personal situation, my co-founder is opposite type of operator to me. I very much hate doing the nitty gritty day-to-day activities like sorting out our accounts or payroll, replying to emails. I hate doing all of these things. I still to this date don't actually, I've never even once logged into our main bank account as a company. There's $1 million in there. I don't even have the password. I hate doing all of these things. On the contrary, I love doing the big, deep thinking activities of what are we building? What should the roadmap be to get there? What should the main voice of our company sound like? And my co-founder hates doing these things. So again, both of these things must be done, but we both like doing the opposite things, so it works kind of well. So also your co-founder should be like this. Now, in terms of attracting the rest of the team, depends if you have money or not. If you can pay them a salary, you should pay people a really good salary so that they're never unhappy with this. You should have a really big, hairy, and audacious mission as a company. This is what attracts the right people when they feel like they're going to be doing meaningful work. So if you are currently, or if your idea is really small or kind of boring, you should at least find a way to communicate it in a meaningful way. This is how you attract the best employees, when you're doing meaningful work. Now, in terms of hiring, you can be hiring for character sets or skill sets. And I almost always, 9 out of 10 times, prefer hiring people focusing on character sets rather than skill sets. Skills can be trained. You can train someone how to be good on selling on phone calls. You can train someone on how to create good advertising. What you can't train is courage. Do they take risks? Are they bold? What you can't train is resilience. When you're losing, when you're not doing good stuff, does this person stick around and dig their heels in the ground and push forward? Is this person a logical thinker? Can they really get from point A to point B themselves without telling you how to get there, as long as you told them the rough direction? So I much prefer hiring for skill sets, for character sets. And it's these 3 things that I largely look out for: courage and bravery, resilience, and then critical thinking.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for that. Is there anyone else who'd like to ask any questions?
I do have some questions, but I was thinking if anyone's too shy to speak, we have a chat where you can put in your questions there. So I was just wondering, a bit curious. So Sweatcoin was mainly an app, right? So I think if someone has a business idea but no app building experience, how do you go about? Like, where do you look for people who knows this kind of skills?
So I think it's largely 2 skill sets that are required in order to build an app. First of all, the technical experience. You would need what's called a CTO, Chief Technical Officer. Chief Technical Officer. This is someone who knows how to actually build technical products. So I don't know if your uni has some sort of computer science division, but you need to go network with these people, make some contacts. Whether you have an idea right now or no, it doesn't really matter. You should start building these contacts so you can get past that hurdle of having your first fight with one of those people until you know, okay, this is co-founder material. So you should start building those connections. So that's one person. Second person that's really important is a product manager. This is someone who understands the process of how to build something. When you talk to customers, you have a hypothesis, you build an MVP, give it to the target customer set, let them experience it, ask them questions, and then take the next steps forward. You can learn this yourself, but you should then take it very seriously. It's not atypical for the founder or the CEO to also act in as a chief product officer. But it's not a thing you can kind of just pretend, hey, I'm Steve Jobs, I know what to build. It has to be a proper process. You have to have hypotheses that are formalized and structured, test them against users using analytics, but also talking to them on phone calls in a very specific manner and figure out if you're building the right thing or not. So there's like a variety of books that you can read about how to become a product manager. Probably you don't need to find someone to do this for you at the early stage. You can just learn it yourself, as long as you take it extremely seriously. You shouldn't just go and pretend, I know exactly what to build and what it should look like. Came to me in a dream once. It needs to be very structured and technical.